It's sort of like that conversation that you have around the dinner table, at least in the old days. So we're sort of bringing that back because the proximity to the person, the eye contact that you have, it really brings in sort of that personal side to the conversations where they feel like they're talking to individuals and not the teacher, not with the right answer. There are many answers and they feel accepted by their peers.
And not only that, but also how do they deal with some of these ideas that I'm throwing at them? So if it's an op-ed piece about Me Too, I mean, it gives them an opportunity. They're talking, I'm not talking at them. They're talking and they're exchanging ideas. Or if we're going to talk about Plato and struggling with like a 2,500-year-old idea, I think that's a way to do that. I could print out Plato and we could sit down and I could pontificate at them for a while, but there's something about a seminar where they have some control over it. What a seminar is not a debate, and the seminar is not a discussion, and the seminar is not a conversation, it's a dialogue. So what that means is that you need to listen to the person and then respond to what they say.
You can also share your opinions and ideas and things like that, but you can't really do that in the classroom. And I think it's easier when other people kind of ask you and then you get to do it in your own words instead of writing it on paper.
As a young teacher, and I learned to do seminars fairly early in my career, and when I started doing them, when I had kids would come back to me and say, when are we doing that again? I knew I was onto something. Because when kids ask, they actually ask, well, can we do more of that? Then you've hit on a good thing. And so what is that, right? I think it gives a chance for kids to express themselves and to test their ideas and their opinions against each other's and, what's real and what's not real. And I think they need to hear their own voices.
The purpose of seminars is to understand ideas, values, and issues. Do not say, I agree, until you can say, I understand.
Not only to hear their own voice, but I think they need to hear from their peers how they deal with the world.
How can someone be happier if they don't have as much loot and power as me?
I mean, you don't have to have all those things. Things don't make you happy. I mean, they can give you some type of happiness, but it's the people that you surround yourself with.
I think this method is incredibly important in many types of classroom situations. It does allow students to have a voice where they might not necessarily have a voice in a regular classroom setting. I think it also gives us, as their teachers, different ways to see them shine and different ways for them to stand out. And we get to hear more of their inner thoughts that we might not necessarily hear in a class discussion.
We're only like 14, 15, and in our short life so far, like what really makes you happy can be completely different in just a few years or a few months,
I imagine I see happiness a lot differently than you do and than Patrick does, just by the way you guys talk about it.
Why don't we just go around, let's do a round table and just name the things that make us happy, and then let's see where it takes us.
We are really focused on the discussions going on in that small group setting to see how they're interacting with each other. They are learning to have a conversation. They are learning to respect other people. They are learning to listen to other people. So there's all kind of skills involved in that may or may not have been developed up until this point.
I think it's like anything else at teaching. You try stuff and what works you keep, and if it doesn't work for you, maybe it doesn't work for everybody. I tend to think that seminars can work for all of us. There's not a right way and a wrong way to do seminars. And I walked into classrooms where teachers are doing seminars, none of them look alike. Even Brian and I, we've been partners for so many years, he does them slightly different. So I think that the way that a teacher does a seminar meets the needs of their kids. So that's what you kind of have to figure out. Well, how do you do that? Well, you have to plunge in and do them. text that I pick out, I want them to struggle a little bit. They tend to get more into the text and trying to break down what's being said. What is the argument? Is it a good argument? Is there bias?
All of these articles have child labor as one of their underlying themes.
As students get older, obviously, their thoughts, their comments can be deeper. We've both taught history. We've taught pretty much every subject K through 7. So it's a great way to bring in history, science. We had a math teacher in here watching today, and she was so excited. She would like to use this. She thinks it would be great to discuss data and the different perspectives different people can have on the same set of data. So it's something that can be used in any classroom. I also like that we have a time called Genius Time or Curiosity Time. So these topics could be created by the students. They could be their passion products. It does not have to be a text. It does not have to be something that's part of the state standards. It could be a topic that is totally the students. A lot of the work that we do comes before. So when we're discussing the topic or reading the text, they're doing a lot of work with it ahead of time. They're doing a lot of practice thinking skills, practice questions. And when they get there, they can kind of pull all of that together.
We have several different materials that we have readily available for them. We have question stems and question starters that we have on the table. So if they get stuck and freeze and don't know what to say next, we'll say, refer to your question stems, to help them out with a question to bring to the table.
So the first thing you need to know is that this is Socratic Seminar. The lines represent tables, the X's represent chairs. I want you guys to set up in Socratic Seminar, please.
In a class size of 35, what I would try to do is pair them up, and I would have one group be an outer circle, and their whole job would be to analyze how we're doing in the seminar. And there's a variety of ways they could do that. They could count the number of interruptions. The group on the outside could be partnered up and ask their partner, what do you want me to focus on in terms of how you're doing in the seminar? And then they focus on and give feedback individually. You could have I've seen teachers come up with score sheets. I haven't used these, but I've seen teachers use that, like a sort of scoring system for how the inner circle is doing with the seminar question. And so the seminar then takes on two parts. It's the discussion about the topic, and then it's the outer circle's evaluation of how the inner circle did. And that allows you to deal with a larger class size.
I think we have a long ways to go about observing, and I think there's things we need to do to get better. So I want to make sure that, first of all, on the reverse side of the evaluation sheets where you have all the behaviors, make sure you circle at least 5. And then when we debrief, I kind of want to go over there and see what you guys circled.
You guys are kind of like you're at seat 7 there. What would you say if you were in this conversation? So you're listening, but you're being engaged.
Outside circle, we're looking for civility and respect from you too. So take a look at what's happening in your inside and see what kind of feedback you can get. Raise your hand on inside circle if you got some feedback you're planning on using right now. Good. And it's because our outside circle is observing and paying attention, okay?
In a seminar, we just take turns. And I know that probably in your previous 8 years of school, you've been trained to raise your hands. Not in seminar. You need to talk to each other and get used to that instead of always looking at me.
Once we turn it over to you guys, we're not going to do much talking.
Try to imagine that we're going to get to a point where I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be sitting over there.
Before we get started in the Socratic Seminar, there are some things that we have to make sure we have ground rules, okay? So what are we going to have to do? Let's come up with 5 things that we've got to make sure everybody's in agreement on to make this successful.
I think coming up with the group norms for the kids to follow and respect and understand is really important. It puts them all on the same page. They all agree to that while they're participating in the Socratic Seminar, they are going to make eye contact with the speaker. That really means that the students that are in the other groups, they don't have a voice at that time. Their voice comes in the middle group, in the discussion group. So they're participating in other ways. I think, just having that level field for all of them to come in on does help. It helps with the management, especially with a large group.
All right, so these 5 things, are these things that we all agree that need to happen today? Yes. Absolutely.
Why do we have to do these things? It's like, but if we don't do them, then it's just a discussion. When you do all this, it becomes almost sort of a ritual, and they kind of fall into this sort of like this zone thing, right? I think the kids, it's like, get to a point where it's like, okay, we're gonna do seminar. It's like slipping into a comfortable shoe. They just kind of, and they know what to do.
I feel like it's kind of like how the kids in Africa, how they're mining for 3 days straight and then only getting like $4. I feel like I would rather either do a 15-minute fight and get paid 60 than going underground and getting paid 4.
That one kid that got hit in the head 4 times and he died, do we want more of that?
I think it happened because they don't have a lot of equipment on them, so they get hurt more.
You get paid a lot more to go out and fight for 15 minutes, and not a lot of people die. It's like only one person, whereas in farming and factories, lots of more people died for less money.
He had an astonishing 174 fights.
People are saying that we should get completely rid of child labor, which I mean is a fair point, but then also no one is offering an alternative as to how the families are going to get the money that they need.
If they had enough money to fight, like they had $60 to $600 to pay the fighters, then why didn't they have enough money to pay the people at normal jobs?
Don't be afraid to let go of that control that so many of us feel the need to have because we are so tied to state standards and testing and this, that, and the other. But really being able to give up our role in the classroom and give it to our students.
Early in the year, as a facilitator, I talk more, and because I have to prompt them and keep the conversation going. But through the year, I tend to talk less and less, and then about halfway through the year, I will pull myself out of the conversation because they're confident and capable enough that they can carry the dialogue. One thing that I'm learning is I have to not be the authority. The authority is reason. That's the authority, and so I've been working really hard last year and this year about trying not to be the authority and not trying to be the teacher, but also try to be the learner along with them. It's so hard to do, but that makes it worthwhile. If the kids see me as a learner along with them, then it sort of changes the dynamic of what goes on in the classroom. After the seminar is over, then you debrief. What happened? What did you see? What went well?
The outer circle was a little distracted. A few people only spoke during the round table. Some people had great notes but did not share them. And the best things were people were asking for clarification, there was differing opinions, stayed on topic, and a lot of people referred to a text.
Everything can go wrong. Everything can go wrong. You can have kids they'll be distracted. They won't pay attention. They'll be on their phones. They won't know what to say. I've had seminars go 10 minutes and just like it's pretty clear that they haven't read the text. I mean, everything. And if you believe in it and you're persistent, and the kids will begin to see value in it, I think that you work through that. There are some classes or some groups of kids more willing to do it and some not so much. But I think what happens is they begin to see the value in it and then they begin to police themselves. And so if you've got a kid that's on their phone or they're not paying attention, this actually happened yesterday. There was a kid who had a coin, he was flipping it. We were in the seminar, he kept flipping the coin, he would miss it, would play. And finally, one of the kids said, could you stop? Because it's like you're distracting.
I just think if there are teachers out there that are considering doing something like this, I say go for it. I think what you get in return and what the students can walk away from an experience like this is not something we can ever recreate in a classroom.
I've always thought, wouldn't it be great if the entire school, if all the teachers at a school, at this school, at any school, if we all did seminars, what those kids would be like by the time they're seniors, what they could do. Because what they can do at the end of 9th grade is amazing. Could you imagine 4 years?
I think you could get to know more people better and their personalities during Socratic seminars.
Thinking about it with a group, you can get more ideas and get more stuff done. So,
and like some people might come out more, like if they're shy, to just talk to an open group of people and in front of people.
So like if one of them's just mostly goofing off, but they're really smart, they have a chance to show everybody how good they are at something.
Miss Baber and Miss Kennedy like bring fun stuff to it, and it's kind of like an easier way to learn.